For a long time, mid-decade, Sony was quite popular with their Android phones. They weren't particularly good or anything. I never enjoyed reviewing them, but they were popular. Now, in recent times, Sony's market share has plummeted, but man, they've been putting out some stellar phones. Unlike with other brands, Sony's lineup is also very simple. First, you have the 10 series, which is their entry to mid-level smartphone offering. Then you have the Pro lineup, the super expensive phones aimed at professionals. There's the 1 series, the regular consumer flagship, and the 5 series. A toned down version of the same that, in my humble opinion, offers the best value amongst all Sony phones. Last year, I loved spending time with the Xperia 5 Mark II, and now in the past week or so, thanks to 28mobile.com, I've been using Sony's Xperia 5 Mark III as my primary. And spoiler alert, Sony's had another very strong showing here. Hey guys, Ash here from C4E Tech, and welcome to my full review of the Sony Xperia 5 Mark III. Let's get started. There's not a lot that's changed since the last time around. In fact, this crappy case you see to the back, that's me repurposing the Mark II's case. I knocked the back out and did a glare job of putting this in. Now, why did I do that? Quick cut to a clip from my Xperia 1 Mark III review. My first thought on picking up this phone was, damn, not again. Sony, if by chance, if the stars align and by some chance you're watching this video, here's a fact. You don't have the market share. Your phones are not popular. Don't get me wrong, they are amazing, but not popular. And that means finding accessories for it is a pain. So please, pretty please, just include a soft case in the box. And since they still don't, and I'm a little too paranoid about the phones I use, I ended up having to resort to crappy DIY. I mean, AliExpress does have cases for everything, but you know how the shipping there works, right? Now, this is what we take away from it. Barring some slight changes to positioning, the phone's pretty much similar to its predecessor. We have Gorilla Glass 6 to the front and back. Note the Xperia 1 Mark III has Victus to the front. Barring that, we have aluminum frame, we have a pull-out card tray to the left, which I adore, by the way. I mean, the placements here are pretty typically Sony. So primary mic and Type-C port to the bottom, headphone jack and secondary mic up top. The right is loaded with a lot of keys. There's a lot happening here. We've got the volume rockers, the power key that also doubles as a very efficient and quick fingerprint scanner, a dedicated Google Assistant key that is pretty useless, at least to me. And finally, this awesome two-stage shutter key. The one that really makes you want to pick up and shoot. And while you're looking at these cool cat pictures, I'd like to let you know this video is sponsored by 28mobile.com. If there's any phone that you want to buy that's not available in your market, 28mobile is the best place to get them from. They're reliable, have good service, and ship quick. So go on, check out 28mobile.com if you haven't yet. I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, coming back, I'd love to see Sony make the move to under-display fingerprint scanners because they've had OLED for a while. And while I don't necessarily mind the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, for what they're charging, I feel they should be offering the best option available. Talking about the best, the display here, it's a 6.1-inch OLED panel, and I actually prefer it to the 4K screen on the Flagship Xperia. Guys, I know that's kind of sort of a mad thing to say, but hear me out, give me a chance. With the Xperia 1 and its 4K panel, it runs at Full HD Plus mostly, except for some select scenarios like when you're watching 4K content. So for the most part of your usage, the Xperia 5 is going to offer more densely packed pixels as it's running at the same resolution as its more expensive stablemate, but on a smaller display. Now the fact that the display is smaller also helps. It's easier on the battery and more importantly, easier on your hands. Now, note that despite the smaller form factor, this phone still has the same capacity battery as the 1 Mark III, 4500 mAh, and Sony's managed to do that while keeping the weight under 170 grams and retaining IP68. Pretty neat, right? Now, apart from the weight, the 21:9 aspect ratio also leads to a pretty narrow phone overall. So the ergonomics here are solid. I use the Xperia 1, or rather the Xperia 5 Mark III single-handed a lot, and that's not something that can be said about a lot of phones these days. I mean, the back is still slippery. So like with most smooth glass-backed phones, you're gonna need that case, but it is much easier to wield than most of the competition. So that's a big pro in my opinion. Now moving on to battery, here's what I had to say about the 1 Mark III's battery life. Now the actual battery life is not bad. It's managed to get me through a day on a single charge, even with me testing cameras and gaming. But do note that the battery life makes it onto the pro side of this video by the slimmest of margins. So don't expect it to be great. I would call it slightly above average. And here, given the lower resolution, the smaller display, and the same capacity battery, as expected, the battery life is about 20-25% better. So I can safely call this excellent. The included charger is again 30 watts and gets you from 0 to 50 in half hour. It is okay, but wireless charging is missing here, which is disappointing. What isn't disappointing though is the performance. Just like with a more expensive offering, Sony has again gone with the Snapdragon 888 here. Well, the One Mark III had 12 gigs of RAM, 256 or 512 gigs of onboard storage. Here we get 8 gigs of RAM with 128 or 256 gig storage options. The tech itself remains unchanged, LPDDR5 for the RAM, UFS 3.1 for storage, and in my humble opinion, 8 gigs is more than enough for anything Android. The 5 Mark III, it flies around the interface, which is mostly stock Android 11. There are some Sony extras like SideSense that I found useful, especially for single-handed use and making the best out of that 21:9 screen. Now, all this was expected, but there was one thing that really surprised me. Remember that slight heating issue from the One Mark III? That is not present here, and it makes no sense. It's the same chip, it's the same software, it's the same brand in a smaller body. This combination cannot have better thermals. I mean, maybe it's because of the display, I don't know. The 5 Mark III, it runs pretty cool. I could game on it without things getting uncomfortable at all, and that's something I couldn't say about the more expensive Xperia. Beat it up, here's where I mentioned, unlike some of the competition, Sony only promises 2 major updates and 2 years of security patches, which might be a deal breaker for some. Okay, now it's time to get to the start of the show, the cameras. We have a very similar looking camera array to the back. All it's missing from the Xperia One Mark III is that 0.3 megapixel time of flight sensor, which isn't much. Now, the other 3 cameras are exactly the same, with the software processing and the ISP being the same. It's no surprise that the results are just as good. The primary 12 megapixels sports a stabilized f1.7 lens, and like the other 2 sensors, this one has support for dual phase detection autofocus as well. The images, as you can see, are beautiful, lots of detail, rich, excellent dynamic range. Even under low light, it continued to impress. Well, there is no manual night mode here to trigger. Sony does make use of multi-frame noise reduction techniques, and the results are solid. Now, if you want to up your camera game, there are a truckload of options to tinker around with, and these seem to be lifted straight out of the Alpha camera lineup. So a lot of options there. The second 12 megapixel sensor, it has an ultra-wide f2.2 lens with a 124-degree field of view. It performs quite beautifully too. The third camera, this is something I thought Sony might have changed from the more expensive One Mark III. I mean, I wouldn't have faulted them if they changed it, because this is a pretty flagship feature. The awesome dual focal length camera that we saw on the One Mark III, we find that here as well. So 12 megapixels, you get to choose between 70 millimeters, that is 2.9x zoom, or 105, that's 4.4x zoom. The results are excellent. Beat it up, this lens also happens to be stabilized. With video, we get up to 4K 60, and the footage quality is excellent. Again, here's another area where the 5 III managed to run a lot cooler than the One Mark III. So what do we have here? Built-in design, I'm going to call it excellent. Battery, I'm going to rate it very good. I'm just cutting a little bit because at this price point, not having wireless charging, I feel it's a negative. Display, user experience, and cameras, I'm going to rate them all as excellent. But the price at $950, that is not excellent. That's not even competitive. The Galaxy S21, for example, starts at $799, and so does the iPhone 13. The Xperia 5 Mark III, this is an excellent phone. It's probably one of my favorites this year, but it feels like it's priced at least $100 higher than it should have been, despite the fact that, unlike the aforementioned phones, this one has a headphone jack, it has support for micro SD, and even has a charger included in the box. So anyway, this is my take on the Xperia 5 Mark III. It's a very good phone, but one that most people aren't really going to care about because of availability, because of pricing, a variety of reasons. So do you agree with what I've had to say here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're down there, thumbs up, thumbs down based on whatever you felt about this video. Subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that bell icon if you haven't yet. And thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4E Tech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.